We will not start a war against Greenland.
On the ground. It is now time for the international community to join them fully. Today, I ask the world to do 6 things. First, protect the Iranian people by degrading the regime's repressive capacity, including targeting the Islamic Revolutionary Guard leadership and its command and control infrastructure. Second, deliver and sustain maximum economic pressure on the regime, block their assets worldwide, target and dismantle their fleet of ghost tankers. Third, break through the regime's information blockade by enabling unrestricted internet access. Deploy Starlink and other secure communications tools widely across Iran, and conduct cyber operations to disable the regime's ability to shut down the internet. Fourth, hold the regime accountable by expelling its diplomats from your capitals and pursue legal enforcement actions against those responsible for crimes against humanity. Fifth, demand the immediate release of all political prisoners. Sixth, prepare for a democratic transition in Iran by committing to recognize a legitimate transitional government when the moment comes. Supporting the Iranian people is not an act of charity, nor is it unwarranted interference. Global stability itself depends on the removal of this regime. Its 47 years of exported terror, nuclear threats, and regional chaos must end. This does not require putting boots on the ground. The Iranian people's boots are already on the ground. They are the ones marching, sacrificing, and fighting for their freedom every single day. What they need from the world is resolute, targeted support to protect lives, amplify their voices, and hasten the collapse that is already underway. But let me be clear, with or without the world's help, the regime will fall. It will fall sooner, and more lives will be saved if the world turns its words into action. A free, democratic Iran will not be a source of endless crisis. It will be a pillar of peace, partnership, and prosperity for the Middle East and beyond. The choice is clear. Stand with the people now, or watch the cycle of instability continue. As I have said to my compatriots, the noble and courageous people of Iran, particularly the young generation, I speak directly to you. Know that you have commanded the world's attention and admiration. History itself stands in awe of your bravery and your sacrifices. You are the immortal guard of Iran. Continue the fight as you have done so far. Do not allow this regime to create the illusion that life is normal. After all the massacres, there is a sea of blood between us and the regime. The regime, through severe repression, killing, and cutting off communications, is trying to instill fear and terror in you and to make you despair of continuing the movement and struggle. But know that because of your steadfastness and fight, thousands of military and security forces have not gone to work so as not to participate in the repression. Save the name of all these criminals. They will be prosecuted for what they have done. Yet justice alone will not heal all the wounds, but it will open the door to healing and a national rebirth. As for the day after our victory, I have a clear plan for the transition to democracy. Millions of Iranians inside and outside Iran are united around these 4 core principles: Iran's territorial integrity, separation of religion and state, individual liberties and equality of all citizens, and the Iranian people's right to decide a democratic form of government. The end of the regime will mark the rebirth of one of the most accomplished civilizations in history for the future of Iran and its people. Iran is blessed with extraordinary human talent and vast natural resources. Our people are highly educated, producing one of the highest numbers of engineers in the world, with around 70% women. Today, the corrupt regime wastes these gifts. In a free Iran, our resources and ingenuity will drive prosperity at home and strengthen global supply chains, including America's. A free Iran will be a game changer for peace in the Middle East and for Iran's relations with the United States and the West. The Iranian people love America and hate this regime. After its collapse, instead of death to America, the world will find a nation that embraces America as a true friend. President Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, bringing peace between Arab nations and Israel. I see extending this idea to a free Iran through what we could call the Cyrus Accords, honoring our ancient heritage of tolerance and partnership. The possibilities are endless. There will be a peaceful, stable, and orderly transition. My team of experts have developed a plan for the first 100 days after the regime's collapse and the long-term reconstruction and stabilization of our country. It is backed by business leaders and provides a detailed roadmap for national recovery. Restoring economic confidence, ensuring that essential services continue uninterrupted, and laying the foundation for prosperity in a free Iran. A constitutional process will follow under international observation, allowing Iranians to finally determine their own destiny through free and fair elections. A free and democratic Iran that emerges will live at peace with our neighbors. It will be an engine of growth and opportunity in the region and the world. There are moments in history where the moral imperative for action is so strong that the weight of inaction becomes unbearable. This is one of those moments. The people of Iran have risen to reclaim their country. History will honor those who stand with them. Long live Iran. Thank you.
We are joined by Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us again. Now, for this discussion, we are joined by Mr. Andrew Latham. He's an international expert, joins us live from Minneapolis. Sorry for the earlier confusion. Thank you very much, Mr. Latham, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now, thank you. Now, looking at this, we heard Reza Pahlavi talk about victory, talk about giving back or giving democracy to Iranian people. So, is he eyeing this position of political leader in Iran but he is, knowing that he is ousted Shah's son, right? And if I recall correctly, the Iranian regime, Iranian people ousted him ousted his family for a reason, of course, and it wasn't a good reason. So what do you think? Are Iranian people going to forgive this Pahlavi family, and are they going to be popular there? What do you think? How will Iranian people in Iran be eyeing this?
Well, I think right now it's a matter of lesser of two evils. 1979 is a long time. A lot of Iranians weren't born at then. And so I'm not sure that the memory is there, except for the memory that's been cooked up and transmitted by this theocratic regime. So I think any alternative will be acceptable to a lot of Iranians. Having said that, there is no Mandela, there is no Walesa, there is no Gandhi in Iran at the moment, and Pahlavi is not in the same league as any of those. There's lots of misery, there's questions about legitimacy, but there is no organized alternative leadership within or beyond. And Pahlavi certainly doesn't fit that bill. He's been in the United States now most of his life. I don't see people on the streets turning to him in the way that they did to Mandela, for example, or Walesa, or any of the other iconic leaders of democratic transitional movements. He's just not cut from the same cloth. And despite the words that we just heard, some of which were quite inspiring, I'm not sure that anybody in Iran is listening to him.
Right. Thank you for Mr. Latham for sharing that. I would like to also welcome our other guest, Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's joining us as a geopolitical commentator from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us as well. As Mr. Latham just shared his point of view on my question, I would like to also get your point of view. Let me repeat my question. So, do you think that Reza Pahlavi is, of course, a son of ousted Shah, not who was ousted for a reason, even though it's been long, it wasn't a good reason, of course. So do you think that Iranian people, ordinary citizens back in Iran, would be welcoming him? How do you think they are viewing his call as he talks to them like, he's their leader, or he's their hope? What do you think?
Assuming good to be with you again. Always within time. We don't have time to go through a lot of history, but we need to remind ourselves about the red-green axis of 1979, and also the lack of support from the Carter administration at that time in regard to the Shah. Now, I'm not saying that certain things didn't go on, but we have to remember that it was someone who was Shah wanting to lead Iran into a very liberal, progressive country. We only have to see some of the pictures of women around swimming pools in bikinis at that time, and pretty amazing what was going on. If memory serves me correct, you even had Frank Sinatra performing in Iran around about 1975-76. Jumping ahead to what is happening now, the estimate potentially of 20,000 civilians, Iran being civilians, just shot at, cut down by this regime that is extremely oppressive. There have been, beyond words, there have been a number of occasions when the people have risen up, that quite rightly. The other thing is that we have to remember that there is, yes, 1979, 47, 48 years ago, there is a change within the psyche within Iran, and also there is, of course, the economic pressures that have come about. But genuinely, people are fed up with being suppressed in the way that they are. Now, in regard to Pahlavi talking, yes, as Andrew kindly said, inspirational. I think you will find that depending on who you're listening to, and I fully accept it's very difficult at the moment to get information out with the shutdown of the internet, etc. but there is people that, and I understand why he may not be a Mandela character, who's also has a very interesting past. We also don't have time to discuss, or Gandhi, etc. However, there people do look up to him. I believe, and I do accept that if the regime falls, then it's going to take time to then sort this out. And as Pahlavi has said, I do have a plan. There are other people that would also echo that. Now, of course, as President Trump, whether it's true or not, people are saying, well, is he strong enough to get in there and be a focal point? Well, at times like this, you do need a focal point. But if he is being profoundly genuine, and I believe he is, which is to turn around and say, right, I want to turn the country over to, in regard to a democracy, give you a vote, what would you like to do? Then I believe that I take that on face value. But we are looking at appalling scenes, appalling circumstances, and the brave Persians, as I would call them, definitely of Iran, are rising up to saying we have had enough of the regime. Remember, these people are not armed. They are dealing with the IRCG, they are dealing with the military wing, they are dealing with morality police, they're dealing with the police on the ground there. This is an unbelievably awful situation, and as I say again, the regime is firing on its own people. Asuma.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for sharing that. So building on both of our guests' answer, I would like to go to Mr. Latham. Mr. Latham, so how realistic is Reza Pahlavi's, Mr. Pahlavi's pledge to return to Iran amid current political conditions? If he isn't the opposition, or if not him, so then who exactly is the opposition?
Well, that's the challenge at the moment. The opposition is diffuse and it's dispersed, it's grassroots, it's bubbling up, it's not top down, it's not really being led, it's spontaneous. And that's, I think, going to be effective. This is qualitatively different, I think, than the previous revolts and uprisings. I think this could very well be a moment of transition. The key catalyst that's missing, though, is leadership. I have no doubt that Pahlavi Jr. will attempt to return if the regime falls and exercise leadership. And I think, who knows, he may find some traction. There may be factions within Iranian society that will rally to his particular flag. I'm not sure, though, that that's the case. What he talked about in his speech was not anything that resembles the ruling philosophy of the Pahlavi dynasty or Persian history. That would be very, very much importing Western and American ideals about liberal democracy. That has been going on anyway. The question for me is, has it reached the tipping point? Has secularization, liberalization, etc., within Iran reached the point at which somebody who embodies those values but has deep roots in Iranian society could return and act as that kind of catalyst, that leader? From what I'm hearing, and Mark is correct, we don't have much information because of the work of the Iranian security services. But from what I'm hearing, he really is not the man for the moment. Having said that, though, there is no alternative man of the moment, or woman of the moment for that matter. So nature abhors a vacuum, as does politics, especially post-revolutionary politics. He may fill that vacuum. If that's the case, and he wants to lead Iran in a direction that is more liberal, progressive, open, democratic, Godspeed.
Right. Thank you for highlighting that. And building on that, Mr. Sutherland, would you like to add to it? Do you agree with Mr. Latham that the key catalyst is missing right now? And how critical is the situation then? Can Iran actually achieve a democracy if it goes like this without the, a key figure or a key opposition who can lead, who people can count on? And or do you think there are chances of it being like another Arab Spring, effective in some but not really in many aspects, as we see the current conditions of some countries which Arab Spring took place in.
The Arab Spring is another subject, Asuma, and may not be seen to be what it actually was. My also concern within the Iranian regime is who they're actually bringing in to what they perceive to put down as the dissidents and all the arrests that they are doing, and to put down the people of Iran. That's also my other concern, and other influences that come out that would come in with a Shia theocracy ideology. That is also a concern. But at the end of the day, and I agree with Andrew, I think or what he's alluding to, that in many ways there's a lot more of a grasp from the grassroots upwards. You also see, and when it's been talked about, economic, the bizarre businessmen who seem to have supported the regime since 1979 for up until this point, but have said, if you're then, it's 1.5 million. 1.5 million rials to $1, then this is getting ridiculous. Sounds like after the First World War with the Weimar Republic. So that is extremely serious, but it means that the strata, my own understanding of this, that across the strata of Iranian society, there is a unification to say, we have had enough. And it's not about reform. We can't, in my own humble opinion, we can't have people like Mech coming in or anything like this, or trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the Trump administration in this regard. There has to be a complete reform. People have had enough of a Shia theocracy. That has to be said loud and clear in my own humble opinion. And this is what we are dealing with, which is repression. Any society that decides to turn off the internet, to turn off people being able to get out what's happening inside their own borders, and then turn guns on them, that is profoundly out of order, evil, and highly questionable in my humble opinion. Asuma.
Thank you for sharing that insight. And now I'd like to also bring in sanctions to our discussion. Going to Mr. Latham right now. Mr. Latham, do you think that the Western sanctions that were already there, and the currency that Mr. Sutherland mentioned, building on that, do you think this sanctions, Western sanctions, and all the sanctions that are put on the regime right now, is it actually affecting the ordinary citizens more than the regime? What's your take?
The short answer is yes. If you look at the incompetent management of the economy internally by the theocracy, and you couple that with Western sanctions, and you couple that with mounting military pressure, and of course the strike against the legitimacy of the regime, which claimed it could defend, if nothing else, the Iranian people against external attack. And during the 12-day war, that was proven to be absolute nonsense. You put all of... You see a fracturing of the class basis of support for the regime. The middle class, the upper class that once upon a time was profiting from this regime is no longer profiting from this regime. So they're now siding with those, and I think Mark again is correct. This is not reform, this is revolution. This is a complete overthrow of the regime. It's not tweaking the regime, it's not improving the regime, it's getting rid of the regime once and for all. Those are the stakes at play here. In the past, it has been the marginalized, the oppressed, the poor who have risen up periodically. Now it's them plus the more well-off, the business elites, the middle class, etc. Plus, of course, there's enormous ethno-political tensions within the country, which will emerge as a result of this as well. So you put all of that together. Yes, the sanctions have amplified and compounded the incompetence of the regime economically. I don't think they're the single cause, but they certainly have contributed to this moment. And so it remains to be seen whether that confluence of circumstances is enough, or whether, in fact, you need that leadership piece. Maybe, maybe not. I think yes, but history will instruct us maybe otherwise. And then the final piece, which will not help at this point, is more military action by the international community, by the West, by the United States. I think the only thing that could be accomplished there is to undermine the security surfaces on the margins, but that can be done via cyber operations and hybrid tactics and things like that, and to undermine the legitimacy of the regime by proving that their military is incompetent. Well, that's already been demonstrated during the 12-day war. The Israelis and Americans acted with complete impunity and struck downtown Iran against some of the highest-ranking people in the regime. The claim that the Iranian military is up to snuff, as it were, is completely without foundation anymore. So there's nothing that a military strike could add. And of course, nobody's talking about boots on the ground and that kind of operation. So short version of a very long answer, yes, sanctions mattered. No, they were not dispositive. They were not the sole cause of what's going on now.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Latham. What's your take, Mr. Sutherland? Do you agree or disagree with Mr. Latham?
The other key thing is that we have to remember the ideology of the regime there, where they have spent so much billions and billions of dollars on one thing, which is to focus on Israel. Their ideology says we want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. So then you've been arming Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. You've been building this ring of fire where you've been spending the money that you have created instead of then within your own country building up a country that has incredible resources. You have not been doing that. You then have got water issues in Tehran, etc. And Andrew was right in the fact that the sanctions have had a huge effect on Iran. And then we don't have time. We can go through, Obama's red lines. We go through what happened under the Biden regime, and suddenly, we'll release certain sanctions because Iran has been so dependent on its oil selling. That's why it's rather interesting looking at their relationship with Venezuela and vice versa, plus narco-terrorism in regard to what Hamas and Hezbollah have been doing in regard to South America. In other words, Suma, in my humble opinion, some of this is economically deeply complex. However, we have to look at how the Iranian civilians, the people of Iran, have been suffering. And yes, the economics, as Andrew has quite rightly said, it has played a major issue here. The pressure needs to be continued in that regard, and also with a little bit of saber rattling, then that needs to be the pressure as well. And as Andrew quite rightly said, under the 12-day war last year, the Israelis and Americans could fly over. They had complete control of the air flights of the area over Iran at that time. And even with the threatening to say, right, we're going to come in and we're going to take military action over the last 48 hours, the Iranians have then come up. They've been able to then look at their positions and how they're conducting themselves now. So I think I agree with Andrew. There is some deep questions of militarily, even from the Iranian regime point of view, how they can then handle this or retaliate if they so think that they will be in a position to do so. Asuma.
With that, I would like to thank both our guests today for joining us, Mr. Mark Sutherland and Mr. Andy Latham, for joining us and sharing that insight on the breaking news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Venezuela. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado said that she believes she will be elected president of Venezuela when the right time comes, and aims to turn her country into that land of grace. In an interview aired on American media today, Machado, who won the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for her pro-democracy campaign, made the comments after a visit to the White House, where she presented her Nobel Peace Prize medal to the U.S. President Donald Trump as a symbolic gesture of gratitude for what she called his role in helping her country's democratic transition. The Oslo-based Nobel Institute reiterated that Nobel Peace Prize cannot be transferred or shared, although Machado's medal was physically handed to Trump. The meeting also highlighted deep divisions over Venezuela's future leadership. Trump has expressed doubts about Machado's domestic support and instead engaged with acting President Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, who's the president now. Now, for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Mark Sutherland. He is a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for staying with us. Now, thank you. Now, looking at Venezuela, I cannot understand, how does U.S. see, or Trump administration see Machado? Are they for her? Are they not? And then how do they see Rodriguez as well? What's your analysis?
Machado, of course, could not run in the election in Venezuela last year. Was banned in that regard. Hence, she then fled the country, understandably. And another opposition leader was then put up to then challenge Maduro. And as we've all found out, we can then see, as Stalin said, it's not who votes is important, it's who counts the votes is important. And we see all the fraud in that's gone on since 1998, since Hugo Chavez. So all of this is now in the open. I think the other thing is, again, this is just my opinion, we listen to what we think is coming out of the White House, sometimes in understandable direct statements. That is very important, but there are some conversations, negotiations going on behind the scenes at times that we understandably are not privy to. Now, at the moment, with the lady who stepped forward to then say, I'm now president of Venezuela, you then have to look at her previous record, which is not particularly inspiring in regard to how she has then treated the citizens of Venezuela. And of course, we then have to follow the money. We have to then find out about their own personal wealth and where they've actually got it from. And if you then have a socialist communist mindset and it continues, if you have then been number two to Maduro, where you've just taken that individual out of Venezuela by helicopter to a court in New York, then you've got to ask yourself some very, very serious questions in regard to how corrupt these people are, and the state of Venezuela, which at one point was and can very much still be a very beautiful country with opportunities. Now, before anyone says yes, but they voted in 1998 for the socialist leader at that time. Yes, but people have then learned a lesson. But it's then come with all the repression and corruption since then, and all of that is being revealed and is on the table, in my opinion, Asima.
Right. And okay. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Sutherland for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Zelensky. President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that a Ukrainian delegation is en route to the U.S. for talks on security guarantees and a post-war recovery package, expressing hope the documents could be signed on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. During the talks, Kyiv's team also hopes to get clarity from the U.S. on the Russian stance towards U.S.-backed diplomatic efforts to end the war. Zelensky also said that Ukraine had completed its part of the work on the documents outlining a prosperity package to unlock money for Ukraine's costly post-war recovery, as well as on U.S. security guarantees designed to stop a future Russian attack. Ukrainian officials have said the country will need $800 billion for its post-war reconstruction. Let's listen into what the Ukrainian president has shared.
Днями будуть заплановані зустрічі наших українських представників в Сполучених Штатах. Українська делегація зараз на шляху в Сполучені Штати. Ми сподіваємось, що буде більше ясності, як щодо тих документів, які ми вже фактично підготували з американською стороною, так і щодо відповіді Росії на всю ту дипломатичну роботу, яка відбувалася, яка відбувалася. Якщо все буде доопрацьовано, а якщо буде акцепт з американської сторони, тому що з нашого боку, в принципі, я вважаю, що ми закінчили. І тоді буде можливе підписання під час Давоса.
That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.